Hey folks, it's Tim from the Whiskey Geeks back with another Whiskey Wednesday review where I, Tim from the Whiskey Geeks, pull random bottles out of my personal collection and do quick reviews here on our YouTube channel and over on my Patreon, which is free right now. So you should sign up for that and follow along with my not trials and tribulations, my travels, I should say, through my whiskey cabinet, but also where I talk about my comic book project Frog Bucket that I'm currently in the process of creating, and re-releasing my old podcast, the Murdoch Music Podcast, where I interview music industry professionals and musicians. But today it's Whiskey Wednesday, and what did I pull out? Oh, I grabbed a good one today. This is from the Firkin Whiskey Company, which is an independent bottler from Scotland. This is a fantastic Caol Ila, which I do love, a nice Islay peaty whiskey. So Caol Ila Single Cask that they did in Marsala casks. You probably can't see that. But this is cask number SC16A, bottle number 193. It's 48.9%. This was brought into Canada by the lovely chaps at PWS out in Alberta. Give them a follow. They're a wonderful group of guys. They do a lot of stuff on social, but they're also importers as well, doing a fantastic job bringing very, very high quality whiskeys into Canada, both from Scotland and Ireland and down in the States as well. But they brought this in a while ago. I think I've had this for probably about a year. I did a lot of damage on the bottle, as you can see. I haven't tried it in quite some time, so I'm excited to get back into it. But Caol Ila, a nice peaty whiskey from the Isle of Islay. For those that don't know a lot about whiskey and you're here kind of learning, welcome. So Islay, known for its smoky peaty whiskeys. The one thing about Caol Ila is I find, and a lot of people find, but me personally, I find it to be a lot less intrusive and scary for people who have never had the peaty whiskeys. It's a really good introduction to folks to try smoky whiskeys, peaty whiskeys, because I find that the flavors that they get, it's a lot lighter of a peaty flavor. It's not like really down your throat like a Laphroaig or Lagavulin or Ardbeg. Laphroaig and Ardbeg specifically can be difficult for people just getting into Scotch and trying to find their way in their journey, and giving somebody a Laphroaig quarter cask or an Ardbeg Wee Beastie as your first peaty whiskey is kind of mean, in my opinion. I like to start them off with a Caol Ila or even a Bowmore, but we're talking Caol Ila, so let's do it. I find that the peat that the flavors that Caol Ila gets is a lot lighter. Like I said, a lot lighter, fresher. There's some kind of citrusy notes in it as well, floral as well too. So it's a nice, easy drinking peated whiskey. But what these folks at Firkin have done, which is one of my favorite things that people are doing a lot of now, is taking the peaty whiskey, finishing it in a different kind of wine cask to pull out some different notes. You know me. If you do know me, you know that I love a really heavy peat bomb, and I do love a sherry bomb as well. So that mixture of peat and sweet is really, really great. So these guys went with a Marsala cask, and the Firkin Whiskey Company, if you do look them up, they do really great work where they're taking barrels, they're buying old oak barrels, and they're taking staves off of American and French oak casks. They're making new casks. They're doing a specific char level themselves where they cook the inside of the cask to put a nice little char on it, and then they're filling that with Marsala wine to season that cask, and then they're putting whiskey in to then pull out the Marsala flavors into the wine. So Marsala is, I think it's a Muscat grape. I'm going to get run out of town if I got that wrong. But Sicily, I think, is mostly where you see Marsala wine. It's a really complex sweet wine. It's also dry as well. So it does really interesting things with whiskey. Oh my gosh. I haven't had this in quite some time, like I'd said before, so I'm very excited to get back into it. But right away, you do get some of the peat, but the peat smoke is not really all that present in there. You get it, but you get a lot more of the sweetness and the light kind of floral freshness, but then there is this like almost honey sweetness from the Marsala casks as well. So it's a nice like sweet and smoky, not like salty as well. That would be like, I've had some whiskeys that are like sherry aged, like Ardbegs and Laphroaigs. You get like a sweet and salty because they get more maritime-y stuff in that. But this one's just nice and fresh and clean. What did I say? 48.9% alcohol. So let's have a little taste. Cheers. Oh, that's where the smoke comes in immediately. Oh, it's lovely. So you do get, man, you don't get it on the nose, but on the palate, you definitely get it. This is a heavily peated whiskey. But again, it's not offensive to me. It might be to the unseasoned, smoky Scotch drinker. But if you like peated whiskeys, my goodness, is this nice. It's nice and clean and fresh, but the smoke is just there. It's still going on my palate. But there is a really nice sweetness behind it as well. It's honey. I get a lot of like the honey sweetness as opposed to like a brown sugar, or when you get like sherry, like Oloroso sherry or PX sherry. I find the sweetness in that is more of an like strawberry jam, raisins, heavy brown sugar sweetness. This is like a light sweetness, like a honey or like simple syrup like you get in like a cocktail. Yeah, and then when you go back in the nose, you do get a little bit of the smoke, but the nose on this whiskey, it's more fruity, fresh, sweet, and the smoke isn't there. But when you taste the whiskey, oh my gosh, is the smoke ever there? But it's lovely. Now, when I was doing some research on this bottle, I do think you can still find it. I don't know about the specific cask, but you can get some Firkin whiskeys in Canada, or if you're abroad in the UK, I'm sure you can find this. But look it up if you can. The Firkin Whiskey Co. Caol Ila is distilled in 2011 Marsala cask. So it's a single cask. So there was, I think, only single cask. I don't know, probably a couple hundred bottles. I know Canada didn't get much. I know the PWS guys, when I did my order with them, they sold out of theirs. But I think there was some other shops in Canada that do have it. So you should look it up if you can. If you do like, if what I'm saying is interesting to you and it's something that you might want to try, I definitely recommend it. It's really, really good. Anytime you get a seasoned peated whiskey, it's a winner. For me, at least. One more sip. Oh my gosh. That peatiness is going to stay with me for a while, and I love it. Thanks so much for checking out this Whiskey Wednesday, where Tim pulls random bottles out of his collection and does a quick review. Make sure you're following along the Whiskey Geeks YouTube channel and our podcast. We are coming back with a brand new season. By the time this comes out, it might be launched already. June is when we're restarting the Whiskey Geeks, where we're doing more reviews. We're going to be interviewing a lot of cool people, so make sure you're checking that out. Follow me on the Patreon as well, which is where this is going up first. It's free right now, so what's stopping you? You get every other week, I'm doing one of these whiskey reviews. On the other weeks, I'm re-releasing episodes of my old podcast, like I talked about, the Murdoch Music Podcast. And I'm going to be doing updates from my comic adventures, making an independent comic, Frog Bucket. So I'm got issue 1's out. You can buy that for the low price of like $5. That'd be great if you bought it. That'd be fun. And then follow along the journey as I create issue 2 and beyond of the comic book. So from Tim, the Whiskey Geeks, thanks so much for checking this out. Go buy some Firkin, or just go buy some Caol Ila. Try something new. I think that's the main thing that I'm getting at with this, is like the core range stuff is fun. Try something different. If you see like an independent bottler doing something weird like this, give it a shot if you can afford it. Sometimes it gets expensive. This was actually very relatively well priced. So from Tim and the Whiskey Geeks, thanks so much for checking this out, and cheers.